Yeah, can everybody else mute themselves so we don't get so much feedback?
Great reminder. Thank you. So today is July 13th. We're going to kick off this meeting first talking about the treasurer training, which will be able to apply both from the perspective of the People's Party of North Carolina, but also we'll be able to use the same information for the Populist Action of North Carolina. It won't be as much, but you know, it's definitely going to be helpful to know this. Now, I sent an initial email out to some of you guys just so you can get a taste for what it is. That's not, I mean, there's no obligation, you know, it's for you guys to peruse. I mentioned this to Stacy as well. The way I'm looking at it is it's essentially going to be utilized as a manual. And as we go on and things come up, we can always check back on that to get information as needed. So it's up to you how much you want to be aware and knowledgeable of that information. But by no means is it something that needs to be memorized or anything like that. But with that being said, I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, I was able to do it that time. Scott, did you do something?
Yeah, I made you co-host.
Oh, okay. Well, that time I was able to do it. Hey, Maple. Okay. All right, so let's see here. A window. This window. No, this window. Okay. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yeah, it's tiny, but that's what we could do a big screen for ourselves, I guess. Huh? I'll do that.
Okay.
No, if you can make it bigger, it would be great, Aaron. There
How's
you go.
that?
Oh yeah, much better.
Okay, cool. So the parts, I'm going to skip most of this, and I'm just going to kind of focus in on certain parts here. That way we don't take up too much time, because as you can see, it's like a 56-page document, but it's literally the entire training. I like to take really thorough notes because I know myself and my memory, and sometimes I won't remember things. So I like to go back, and that's how I'll function in using this. I'll be able to kind of use it as like think of it like a dictionary. You know, when I need to look up a definition, I'll just come here and check it out. So essentially, they first tell you kind of what requirements are needed. What I want people to think about as I go through this is not just what we are right now, but kind of think in the future of what we're trying to be. And when we eventually start bringing in candidates, we're going to need to know a lot of this information. And a lot of this training also kind of gave me ideas for things that we could do. So that being said, the requirements, you have to live here. The spouse of a candidate isn't allowed to serve as a treasurer. Common sense. Treasurers are required to complete the mandatory training, which we know. It's within 3 months of being appointed to the position, and the certification, once it's done, needs to be renewed every 4 years. So this training is good for 4 years, which is great. Don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to just skip ahead a little bit. This is just kind of some of the technical information for the forms. Not as necessary to share, I don't think, right now, but I want to stop here. So this is an important rule that they have here in the state. It's called the $1,000 threshold. So candidate, hold on. Political committee with either. Okay, yeah. Okay, so candidate committees for county, municipal, and local offices have the option to be exempt from filing regular disclosure reports if during the entire election cycle they intend neither to raise nor spend more than $1,000. So this is one of their big rules, and if anything changes within a committee or a candidate's election, essentially you would have to create an amendment and then and then file. But they're basically saying there are some exceptions where you don't need to file. So yeah, that's kind of the summary of that. Candidate designation of committee funds is used by candidate committees only and allows the candidate to designate in the event of their death how the committee's funds are to be dispersed in a manner permitted by statute. So yeah, I'm going to skip ahead to party because this is more pertinent to us. So political party committees, which is what we are registered with the State Board of Elections. These include state and county executive, affiliated, and subordinate or auxiliary committees. So they have some examples. So you're a state party, state house, state senate, council of state caucus, women's, men's, young and senior groups are examples of auxiliary committees. So political party committees have the option to submit the certification of threshold at the beginning of their election cycle to indicate that they will not raise or spend in excess of $1,000. We're not gonna file this because I don't know what we're gonna raise within the election cycle, and I'm just planning to report every time. So that's the plan as it stands right now, but this is just information to know. Other filers include referendum committees. Referendum committees was an interesting thing for me to learn about. So referendum committees are required when two or more individuals, entities, or businesses have a major purpose to support or oppose a ballot measure and should be set up with the state or county board of elections according to the area affected by the referendum. The committee to support or oppose a statewide referendum or a referendum in more than one county would be registered with the State Board of Elections. A committee to support or oppose a referendum held in one county would be registered with the County Board of Elections. So it's like really specific rules on groups of people who are organizing to essentially lobby a referendum or a ballot measure or something of that nature. So that's just interesting to know. Some not-for-profit organizations and other entities whose primary purpose is not to support or oppose candidates are allowed to make contributions directly to candidates. So that's something to keep in the back of our minds as we think about the Populist Action nonprofit group. So those entities that are not, so, oh, by the way, if anyone has questions, you can just interrupt me because I can't see the screen while this is being shared. So if you do have a question, just feel free to interrupt me.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay, go ahead.
The on referenda.
Yep.
That isn't lobbying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a lobby.
No. When you're lobbying, you're trying to contact representatives.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying.
Referenda are measures that the voters, you and me and everybody, gets to cast a yes or no on. So what a referendum committee does is it campaigns with the voters against or for the referendum. Now, a lot of states have an initiative and referendum process where you and I can circulate a petition and get one of these on the ballot, but North Carolina doesn't. Referenda only come from the legislature. But once the legislature puts them on the ballot, you and I can vote yes or no on them. And that's what these referendum committees are about. They're to encourage the voters to go one way or the other on the referendum.
That's kind of what I meant when I said, I guess lobby is not the right word. I guess encourage people. But for example, to your point, the last primary I voted in, I didn't pick a side. I did it as an affiliated voter, and I only had ballot measures to vote on.
Right,
so if there was there could be committees. Let's say the school board creates a referendum committee to lobby that we want to vote yes, so that the school gets more funding. That would be an example of that. So yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, lobbying properly used refers to trying to persuade legislators rather than individual voters. So you're talking about, rather than votes at the polling place, you're talking about votes on either the, you know, at the county commission or the state legislature. So that's what lobbying is. And actually, this matters because it's something that a 501c4 can do. They can hire paid lobbyists to advocate for or against bits of legislation, and a 527, the party, cannot. So that's one other reason for having those. And interestingly, there's a threshold, I don't know what it is, but of how many hours and how much payment you can do as a lobbyist. I have done some lobbying with Down Home North Carolina for Medicaid expansion. And because it's only a little bit, I don't have to be a licensed and registered lobbyist. But once you get beyond a certain threshold and are getting paid and doing it professionally, then you have to register and be licensed as a lobbyist. And the deal with the 501c4 is that the 501c4 can have those on its payroll, and a 501c3 can only do very, very limited stuff like that. And the 501c3, that's what we don't have. That's the tax deductible charitable nonprofit. Can do a little bit of that, but they have to keep very close track of it, and we don't have to worry about that because we don't have one. But
Yeah. All right. So thanks for sharing that.
I'll let you
I'm going to
continue.
jump back in here. So we have election cycles. I think this is pertinent information for us. It gives us an idea of timeframes and what to think about for different levels. So offices sought examples: governor, Supreme Court judge, district court judge. Obviously, our goal long term is to get people running as People's Party candidates in as many races as we can. So this is the election year, and then the cycle start dates and the cycle end dates for these. So it's just, I thought that was really good information. So candidate committee election cycles are based on the term of office, while party committee cycles are consistent with the General Assembly, which is 2 years. The table below will assist you to determine your election cycle. Okay, let's move on here. So they talk about contributions, where I think we know what that is, but this is an important piece that I wanted to cover. So $5,600 is the contribution limit. So a candidate or political committee may not accept more than that amount per election. And it's per election cycle. So if there is a primary and a general election by statute for the office, the candidate does not have to have a primary opponent. The candidate may receive $5,600 through the day of the primary and $5,600 from the day after the primary through the end of the election year. So
A quick question. I think it just went up. I was just checking FEC last night for Beasley and them. And it said 5,000, the max was, so I guess it must have just gone up to 5,600 over.
That's a good question. I don't know if it's changed
Yeah, it's
recently.
not like a comment. I think, I'm just saying, I think it just went up because a lot of them were either 2,500 or 5,000. So I'm just saying, my guess is that it just went up, but I don't know.
Okay.
There's two sets of rules. There's the federal and there's the state. This is for the state.
Okay.
The FEC could have gone up, but when I ran for House, 5,000 was the reporting threshold for that to the FEC, and I just barely stayed under it both times. But anyhow, that's FEC, and this is State Board of Elections, so that's why it's different.
Gotcha. That's good to know. It's good information. So additionally, the primary election period is January 1st after the last election through the day of the primary. and the general election period is the day after the primary through December 31st of the same year. So that's how they are breaking up the year by their definitions. If the candidate is on the ballot in a second primary, they are entitled to receive an additional $5,600 from the day after the primary through the day of the second primary, which I thought, well, I didn't know that either. So I thought that was interesting as well. Lots of little tidbits I learned throughout this training that I was like, oh, that's going to be good to know moving forward. The contribution limitation is subject to change effective January 1st of every odd numbered year. That was a little caveat that they had there at the bottom. So I was like, I don't even really 100% know what that means, but I'm just going to put that out there and think about it later. But that's something that they shared. So there's exceptions to this contribution limitation. The exceptions are the candidate committees are allowed to accept unlimited contributions from the candidate itself. They are also allowed to accept unlimited contributions from the candidate's spouse, which I imagine is a loophole that many people take advantage of. And likely the reason why there's many wealthy people who run as candidates. So that's what we typically would need to be going up against. The other exception is any state, district, or county executive committee of a political party recognized under this rule, or affiliated party committee, Senate, House, or Council, is exempt from the contribution limitations. That's us. So there is, as a party, that's us. There is an executive committee for each party at the state level, which is what we are, and also in each county. For example, the state Republican Party or state Democratic Party is allowed to accept and give unlimited contributions. That would also be true for the Wake County Republican Party or the Wake County Democratic Party or any party affiliated caucus. This exception does not extend to the auxiliary or subordinate committees in the state or each county. For example, the North Carolina Senior Democrats or the North Carolina Republican men are not exempt from that $5,600 limitation per election threshold. This is good information as well. It's good to know. Referendum committees are exempt from the 5,600 contribution limitation. So we talked a little bit about that referendum committee. They are there to kind of, I mean, I guess, advocate for their ballot measure. So they are exempt from this limitation. So that's interesting. So the general and then this is one of the questions. Obviously, it's, you know, the general contribution limitation from an individual to a committee or from one committee to another committee per election is 5,600. I got it right. So there was like random questions like that throughout, just to, I guess, keep me on my toes. I guess they want to make sure people are paying attention. I don't know. So prohibited contributions. A corporation, business entity, labor union, professional association, or insurance company may not directly or indirectly contribute to a candidate. This is a law that is in North Carolina. Examples of things included in the prohibitions from prohibited sources are the sponsoring of golf tournaments, purchase of advertising, space for a fundraiser, discounts, donations of food or supplies, and donations of items for an auction. Rule of thumb, if the candidate's opponent is unable to acquire the item or space that they have acquired for the same rate that you've been quoted, it's probably a prohibited contribution. And if you have questions, contact the board for clarification. So I would imagine that people get around this with the loophole of the exemption that they talked
Yeah,
about.
it sounds really harsh. Like
Yeah.
golf course, I can't let the candidate I like play. That sounds. I never heard of this because I don't get into this stuff.
Yeah, this
That
is a
sounds mean. I don't-
yeah, this is a learning experience for me for sure. We're all learning here as we go. Exceptions to this prohibition on contributions from business entities. Okay, so there are exceptions. So some of the exceptions, so contribution from business account statement, party committee building fund, referendum committee. So if you receive a contribution from a contributor that has only one bank account who runs all of their business funds and personal funds through one single bank account, then that contributor can give you a contribution from that account. So this is essentially, I think, to help them track with like a money trail, basically, where the money's coming from, what business. So if a business has multiple accounts, they can't contribute. But let's say a business wants to create a side entity as an outshoot of their business, and they assign one bank account, then essentially this is a loophole that they can take advantage of. So that's just something to keep in the back of our minds. Political party committees are allowed to accept contributions from the prohibited sources listed above to set up a building fund to purchase, construct, refurbish, or pay rent and utilities for a building, which is a really specific thing. So political party committee is what we are. So if we ever wanted to use an exception, this is what it would be. In addition, the party is allowed to fund compensation and in-kind benefits for up to 3 staff members whose primary functions are administrative, such as providing accounting, payroll, and campaign finance services. I mean, we're all volunteers, so this doesn't apply to us. At this time, I don't see it changing anytime soon, but that's good to know. These contributions must be segregated and must only be used for the principal headquarters building and not be used to fund travel or fundraising expenses. So if ever there was a time that we wanted to create some sort of hub or headquarters, this is the exception we would be able to use, I guess, to get donations or in-kinded.
I have
From-
another little question. Like, say you're having an event or you're having your convention or whatever. You might want to contract out some people to help work and do a lot of the work for you. I didn't get to read every word and let that all sink in what you were just going over, but
Yeah,
that sounds like maybe something like that. I'm kind of wondering about that. If, you want to hire people to do some things. I'm not really sure.
yeah. I think it would need to be like you would just pay for the services, and it would be tracked that way. It can't be like donated from. Essentially, if it's
Oh,
an advantage or some sort of upper hand that you're having over another candidate or entity, I think that's what they're trying to avoid. But like you can contract out and then pay. Like for example, we're paying for services from Google's administrative system for.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
these aren't we're not talking about contributions here. We're talking about expenses.
right. That's different.
And the only time there's not really any limitation on expenses that you
Right.
can pay out, but it becomes a contribution in kind, and you may be getting to this a little further along. It becomes a contribution in kind if you get it at a discount,
Mhm.
or it's something that or if you get it for free,
Right.
in that case, it's either if you get it at a discount, it's the amount of the discount versus the usual price. That's a contribution in kind,
Oh,
or if you get it for free, it depends on whether the person normally does that for pay. For example, I was given the example, if you bake muffins for a meeting,
Yeah.
if you do it in your own kitchen and you don't normally do that for a living, that's not a contribution in kind. But if you own a bakery and you normally charge to make muffins, then it's a contribution in kind in the amount of what you'd normally sell those for.
Oh, wow, okay.
So that's how it works on the contribution side. But normally, if you're contracting for a service, you're paying somebody else. They're not contributing to you unless they're giving you a discount or doing it for free.
Yeah. So let's keep it moving here. So no anonymous contributions. Anonymous contributions are prohibited. Collecting of funds without obtaining contributor contact information, such as pass the hat collections, is prohibited. They want to keep track of every cent, and they're unable to do that if you sort of do like a pass the hat type of thing, because it's anonymous. So everything needs to be tracked. Everything needs to be written down, and the more information we get up front when we're collecting donations or payments of any kind, the easier it'll be for me to file every quarter. Oh, and just FYI, I did file for this past quarter, and it was interesting. Hopefully, I haven't heard back, but so hopefully everything. So when I first submitted it, I heard back immediately, and they were like, "This is done. This isn't done correctly." I basically had items that went back beyond that quarterly date. So long story short, I had to submit 3 of them, but I did it, and it was signed. So I reported for the second quarter, the first quarter, and then there's an organizational filing that goes back to our inception date of March 3rd when we incorporated. So from March 3rd on to, I think it was the 12th of March, was the first. Oh, hey, Janet. And then I did the first quarter, and then I did the second quarter. So, oh no, I'm seeing some of these comments here. If that means if I do graphic design, it would be considered a contribution. Yep. Yep. That's correct. I'm getting the storm. Oh yeah. Good luck in that storm. Hopefully everyone stays safe. It just passed here and it was pretty gnarly. I made our People's Party poster for Shikori, expensive gift. Well, we appreciate you for that. Okay. I'm probably not going to get to everything I wanted to. It's already 7:32, but I'm just going to kind of skip ahead. Like I said, if you see anything, just feel free to interrupt me and ask questions. But so these are some things that I think was important for us to know. So even if you are selling items such as hot dogs, raffle tickets, buttons, or T-shirts at an event, you must record the information for the contributor. Only candidates and political committees in good standing with their election board can accept contributions via the sale of raffle tickets. If you're having a bake sale, you must record the information for each person giving the committee money for an item. This is considered a contribution. Pass the hat and collection plate style fundraising are not recommended because they are generally anonymous. Now, I just wanted to share these examples that they had in the training because I think it's going to affect us in our day-to-day, just knowing in the back of our minds what we can and can't do. And if we do something like a bake sale, the information that we'll need to have. In talking to McCorkle, my takeaway from that is just do our best, try to get as much information as we can. And if we do something wrong and we submit it incorrectly or something, they will let us know. That's already happened with me. They let me know immediately these dates are off. It can't be this wide of a range in one filing, so I needed to do 3 separate filings, so I corrected it, and hopefully that was accepted. But I think as long as we do our best and at least make an attempt to follow the letter of the law, we'll be fine. I don't see us. I think the more we do it and the further we go along, the more experience we'll get and the more comfortable we'll be with some of these
Yeah,
rules.
I already kind of learned. It's kind of an awareness thing. I think you're right. You know?
Yeah.
I've got a question,
Sure.
which is hopefully quick. Isn't there an amount under which it goes into like petty cash or it doesn't have to get counted? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
something's
I think
only
it's
$2.
I think it's $50 or less, I believe. I forget what the amount, but yes, it still needs to be counted. But it gets counted as an aggregate, and then we don't
Okay.
need to collect their information. We wouldn't need
Right.
like their address or occupation or company that they worked for.
So if we're having a bake sale and somebody's buying a piece of cake for or
Mhm.
like a muffin for $2, that would go in petty cash and the
we
aggregate.
would still have to count it, but so the way here, let me show you guys. I'm going to skip ahead here. I'm not sure. Can you only see the document, or can you see my?
We can see
Okay.
the screen or yeah, just the document.
Okay.
Pass the hat and we can see you.
Okay. I wanted to show you, where did it go? Hold on, here it is. So the program, okay, hold on.
We could see the document plus the menu and like the blue line up at the top with the menu in it.
Yeah, I just wanted to show you this. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna pause this. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna share screen. Okay, share. Okay. Where did it go? Here it is. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, can you make it bigger?
No, I cannot. Let me see if I. Not really.
Okay, don't worry about it.
But basically, the way it works is like you basically, it's like a wizard. It's like you're answering questions as you go, and let's see. Report information. So this is essentially the program that I had to download from the state. I was really hesitant because it was like, sounded like they'll take over my computer with this. It's like, wait, what am I agreeing to here? But it had to be done. So let's see, view report. Let's say I open up one of these random reports. So as you can see, I had to do some amendments here. But like once you input into that like Excel looking software, it populates into, this information here. And it basically does it for you. So the goal, essentially, I guess what I'm getting at is the goal is to input as much information as you possibly can and what you have. And then the document will know and essentially be smart enough to know what to rip into the report and what's necessary and what's not necessary. So it's a little weird. It takes some time to get used to, but I think once that happens, more often I'll be more used to it, and it'll be fine. But I think this will get to some of the other questions here. So political party executive and affiliated committee exception. So political parties, executive and affiliated committees, which we fall under, are allowed to accept some contributions without obtaining contributor information if they meet some specific criteria. So this is to your point, Stacy. The committee is required to submit a political party exempt sales plan for approval by the executive director of the, so I guess we have to submit for approval to do this. Maybe if we're having a bake sale, we have to let them know ahead of time. That's how I read that, but I'm not sure. Prior to the sale. These contributions cannot exceed $50 per contributor, and the total amount raised in this category for the election cycle must not exceed $20,000. So that's the answer to your question right there. If, for example, we are having a bake sale, we need to let them know ahead of time that we're planning a bake sale fundraiser, and we need to get that sales plan approved by the executive director of the State Board of Elections. which we are not pleased with at the moment from what they're doing to the Green Party and Matthew Ho. But to your point, these contributions can't exceed $50. So $50 and less, we're good to go. As long as it's not $60 per muffin, we should be good. And then the total amount can't exceed $20,000. That would be an awesome fundraiser. So the committee is required to provide general information about the event, number of items sold, total amount raised, and the election cycle sum to date. So this is really great information to know if we're, well, as we move forward and start planning our events. From a treasurer standpoint, this is what we need to know. This is one of the biggest things I wanted to share and convey. Some of this other stuff, it's in the document that I sent. Let's see. Treasurers must track how much each contributor gives to the committee, no matter how small the contribution. The name of the contributor, date, and form of payment must always be obtained. So there it is. So that's what I was trying to show you in that software. I still need to go into the software and input their name, date, and the form of payment that was received. Even though on the form that generates, it doesn't necessarily get included on the form. It gets populated as an aggregate amount. So that's kind of confusing, but the bottom line is we still need to collect these, at minimum, this information, but we don't need to collect like where they work or what they do. For contributions in excess of $50, the treasurer must also record the job title or profession of the contributor and the contributor's employer's name or employer's specific field of business activity. So I know this was a question that we had been discussing before. Now it's right here in black and white. This is what we need to know. So refer to the campaign finance manual for more information. I think, let's see if there was another thing I wanted to hit before that was one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about. So we kind of touched on in-kind contributions already, but an in-kind contribution is a non-monetary contribution, such as a good or service. We kind of talked about that. They count toward contribution limits and must be reported. The contributor shall provide the committee with a statement setting forth the fair market value of the in-kind contribution. In-kind contributions to committee from a corporation, business entity, labor union, professional association, or insurance company are prohibited. And of course, as we already talked about, there are exceptions to that rule. If one candidate campaign committee makes an in-kind contribution to another candidate committee, that contribution must be reported by both committees. So an item such as a laptop that someone gives to the committee would be considered an in-kind contribution. You should obtain receipts or a statement from the contributor indicating the fair market value of that item. So this is, I think, a good place to like emphasize, just do your best. Even if you don't have the receipt, just get an idea of what that item is. And as long as we're just, I think they're just trying to do their due diligence and making sure we're not, doing things that we shouldn't be doing. I think this is something that applies more to like Democrats, Republicans, whereas we have been talking about trying to get money out of politics. So I don't think this is something, as a day-to-day type of thing, it'll affect us, day-to-day operations, but this is just information we need to know. We need to know what they're saying and where they're coming from. We don't need to talk about loans. That's not something we're going to be doing anytime soon or at all. This is what I was mentioning, aggregate contributions from individuals. Basically, it lists the cumulative amount of all the individuals who made a contribution less than $50, $50 or less, I should say. I still am required to obtain.
Wait, hang on.
Okay.
Aaron, go back a little bit. So it says, go right there. These contributions are allowed to be reported without reporting the contributor's name, address, phone number, or occupation. So we don't have to get any information for those $50 or less.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's contributions from individuals.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's in a different category than the bake sale.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I'll have to double check on that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right in that there is some nuance here. But it's just something to keep in the back of mind. Like if we're unsure, we should certainly err on the side of caution and just get as much information as we can. If we can't get it, then we could rely on this and see, just I think as long as we do our best, but yeah, this is from individuals. The treasurer is still required to obtain and keep all contributors' information for their own records. So here's what I think. I think this goes to what I was saying before. Like, I still need to obtain the information, but when I hit create report, that information does not show up on the report. It only shows up cumulatively. So anything that's under $50, that it didn't have the breakdown of all the information that was required. So I mean, that's how I'm interpreting this at this point. Okay, so contribution. So yeah, it's already 7:46. There's obviously a lot. They talk about lobbyist restrictions. We can dive into that another time. They talked about we kind of touched on expenditures. It's kind of straightforward. You have to make sure you're listing all that stuff. Skipping ahead. These are some of the questions they asked. A candidate is allowed to receive a disbursement from the campaign fund for any reason, even if they have not made a contribution, loan, or in-kind contribution to the committee. That's false. It's not, a candidate can only receive a disbursement from the committee if they are being refunded, so this is kind of getting into the weeds. So I'm going to skip this. There is one other. Okay, so media regulations. I thought this was interesting. This will be the last thing I touch on. So what is considered media? Campaign finance statutes define media advertisements, including print media, television, and radio. This section will cover media regulations and for campaign advertising. So print media includes billboards, which is defined as any sign, flat surface, or other display greater than 50 square feet. This definition does not include flags or banners. Cards of all sizes, including small business-sized cards, newspaper inserts, magazines, and other periodicals, flyers, pamphlets, and mass mailings. A mass mailing is defined as mail or fax to 20,000 or more households, cumulative per election in a statewide election, or 2,500 households cumulative per election in any other election. So they're defining what they mean here when they talk about it. So television, radio, print, billboards, cards, these are all considered when they talk about the definition of what they consider media. And then they talk about legends. I guess so a legend is the paid. So if we're not at this point, but if we, for example, put out a TV ad, we are required to put a legend at the bottom of that ad, and that basically says that this is paid for by, and then it tells you exactly what needs to be listed. So it's required for ads in newspapers or magazines, including inserts, flyers, and pamphlets, sound, truck advertising, mass mailings. You're required to say who you are and who's paying for this media. That's what they're trying to get across in this section. It's not required for certain things. So these are the things that we should be thinking about, because we don't need a legend for it. But items that campaigns purchase, have printed, and distribute that do not require legend statements. So buttons, bumper stickers, yard signs, and window posters. Yard signs and posters only require the legend if they meet the definition of a billboard. So If they're small, they don't need them. Balloons, nail files, shopping bags, most campaign paraphernalia printed with a campaign message. So if it meets these criteria, which A is more affordable and B more likely to be what we would be doing at this point in time, it won't need a legend. So, and anything in the social media doesn't require a legend. That is the big stuff I wanted to make sure I talked about and covered. They go on to talk about what exactly the legend needs to include. So campaign finance law sets size requirements for legends. So in print ads, the paid for by section statement must be at least 5% of the height of the ad's printed space, or 12-point type, whichever is larger. For a larger ad in a newspaper, the maximum size required for the legend is 28-point type. They have examples. Examples for print ads sponsored by political parties and political action committees. The legend must state, in addition to the paid for by language, whether the ad was authorized by or not authorized by the candidate. The name of the candidate along with the office sought is required as well. So I'm going to stop there. That's kind of the big stuff I wanted to make sure I talked about. Does anyone have any questions?
You mentioned something about emailing this out. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I did email this document out. Did you not get it?
I don't think so. When was it?
It was last week, Wednesday. I basically mentioned that I didn't have time to cover what I wanted to cover. But I sent this out. Did you not get it? I thought I...
Not. I can do a search. If you send it out from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on Wednesday? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
And,
If you didn't get it, just
I'll
let me
mute
know.
and I'll go look.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Maple, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, what hits me the most in campaigns is like that a lot of candidates get money donated from like a president or CEO of a company, but out of their private account to a candidate, and then it doesn't count. You know, like it's not a PAC. Oh, that company didn't give. You know, and so a lot of them, all the way up to DC legislators, they do. That's their little trick to say we're not corporate sponsored. You know, we get no corporate donations. So, you know, a lot of sleazy stuff. So that just came to mind as like for me, like the top thing that's actually legal, maybe according to all this too, for state level, but shouldn't be legal, you know. So there's a lot of, I mean, you could, I guess, write a million rules, right, to cover everything like that. So I just kind of wanted to bring that out as a big kind of evil thing that goes on that kind of ruins everything as far as donations. Over.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As I was going through this, I was thinking about all the ways I've seen people take advantage of this, and technically they're not breaking the rules. But even the spouse law, you could essentially, like, what's to stop people to send all the money to the spouse's account and then the spouse donate to the candidate in an unlimited amount? Like, nothing's stopping that. That's an easy loophole to go around. So I just think it's wild. But the more information we know, and the more we're armed with this knowledge, the better prepared we would be to understand the game, understand what they're doing and how they're, because I didn't know any of this stuff. So I was like, wow.
And I kind of have one more, like in different action groups I'm in, you know, blocking things or whatever, because we're so frustrated with, you know, money and politics that's basically ruined our country. You know, there's legal fees when someone goes to jail and they don't want to make a court thing out of it and you know, show to the public and have a trial, and they just want to get out of there and have a lawyer. So most 501(c)(3)s say, you know, they can't cover legal costs. So that's another thing that I've experienced, you know, in the different groups. We can't give money to bail people. Well, even bail, I don't know. But anyway, that's kind of a problem. You want to help someone, and you can't with that money. It's kind of too bad.
I did get it.
I agree. Okay, great.
Good.
Let's see. Anyone else? Okay, so this is more time than I wanted to spend on this, but I think it's important. I think it's good information to have. It'll help us be more prepared, and it'll help us strategize moving forward for sure.
So if we get stuck, we'll call you.
Yeah. Well, the goal
One
is
other- one other question.
for us
Go ahead.
all to have it. Go ahead, Mark.
One other question. Are there any proprietary rights to this material? Or is it prohibited to share? I'm thinking you might be able to do you have a link to it? Could you make it a
So-
Google Doc and link to it in the document section on Gilded?
Yeah, so to answer the first part of your question, it's encouraged that I share all of this with the members of the group. That's one.
Okay. Yeah, well,
And
in
then-
that case,
And then
would be a
two,
good idea.
yeah, if you want to take the document that I sent and upload it, that would be helpful to me because I was struggling with that. So I sent it the way I did. But for sure,
Is it a Google Doc? I didn't notice, or is it like a what is it? What's the format?
let's see. I think I did. I made it a Google Doc. Let's see.
Okay.
I shared it as a Google Doc.
Fabulous.
Yeah, Scott helped me with that, so I appreciate you, Scott, for helping me
Great,
with that.
great,
I was
great.
struggling.
Real good. Excellent.
Okay. So, yeah, so the whole point of it, like I said, it's a long document. I don't expect anyone to like memorize this stuff, but my whole thought process is like, we can use it as a guide as we move forward. We can peruse it. As things come up, we can always reference back to it. I essentially copied the entire training and I turned it into this document. So, yeah. Thanks, TC.
Speaking of going, we have if any of you want, there's a McCoracle tonight.
Okay. So with the remaining time that we have, I wanted to talk about the nonprofit group and start thinking about how we should proceed with that. We need to get a bunch of stuff done. We need mission statements. We need to just wrap our minds around the to-dos and start focusing on that. The McCoracle, the sit-ins, the sit-ins with the lawyer that's been helping us from the UPA.
Yeah, that's something that comes through United People's Assembly. That's Mike McCorkle, who is an attorney who is setting up a nonprofit. Actually, has it set up right now that he calls RUMPLI, which stands for the Rocky Mountain Political Law Institute. And every other week at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, he answers questions.
Oh, that's right. I
Okay.
went one time. Thank you. Okay, I didn't hear what you had said. Yeah, that was cool. I met him. Thank you.
So I guess that starts at 8. So I'll just skip ahead real quick to this part. The last thing I wanted to mention and bring up, I sent a message about this, but just so you guys know, I did get added as a plaintiff to the lawsuit against the State Board of Elections. So we will see how that plays out. My understanding is that they may still need people as a witness. So if this is something that you experienced, they may still need you. But from what I understood, there were other people who wanted to be plaintiffs as well. And the way that the lawyer responded was he just wanted to get the paperwork filed and done. So he was just going to send it with what he had. But that doesn't preclude the need for potentially needing witnesses. So that might be something to keep in the back of your mind if you are still willing to help. that might be an ask that comes down as well. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had offered and I sent, I think a few of us must have sent our texts that they sent us. I copied and sent it in an email to Rose. I think that's what they wanted. And the announcement about tomorrow night, there's a rally, online rally for Matt,
yes,
8 o'clock.
yes, thank you. That was the last thing I was gonna. So I register for that. I'll be there for that. Looking forward to it. So it's Janet. Do so he called me last week and his number is a DC number. So I don't know if he's a NC lawyer, but obviously he's filing. I don't know if it's a federal filing, honestly, or if it's a state filing. It's possible that, oh, what's going on here? Okay. I'll have to check this another time. Hold on. It's possible that this is a federal filing, but I'm not 100% sure. It's not a guarantee that it's an NC in North Carolina.
Rose was saying that they have the a lawyer from the Center for Competitive Democracy, but they also need a North Carolina.
Okay,
lawyer.
that makes sense. Yeah, because I think his name's Oliver. I'm pretty sure in DC. I think he's a
Right.
yeah.
Right. And then she said that there was one lawyer, North Carolina lawyer, that was happy to do it, but he's associated with a very right-wing group. So they were testing about to find somebody who was more on the liberal side. And so, and I haven't, I suggested a couple of names that I knew of, but, and I haven't heard anything. So I was just wondering how that went.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been waiting to hear back officially that it's been submitted.
Yes.
But so just to keep you guys updated, I received this earlier this week yesterday. I got this yesterday from him. And he sent it to us and he just asked us to, here, I'll share my screen. 1 second. He asked us to make sure that no edits needed to happen. And by the way, can't share your screen. What? Can you guys see my screen?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Why
There's
can't I-
some trick somebody told us one time. Scott had some trick. Sometimes you got to do it in a different way or something.
Okay. I just did it
I
a second
can't
ago.
remember.
Okay. I guess I'll just do it like this. What? An error. So you guys can't see my screen right now, right?
No.
Right.
Okay. I don't know why this is. Okay, basically it says, so this is what the top says. It says in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of North Carolina. So that's where it's being filed.
Okay.
And then it has the complaint and it has the different plaintiffs, who's the defendant. It talks about the different parties. I had to make a couple edits for my section because they just, they accidentally put like a different plaintiff's last name in my section. So it says like plaintiff Aaron Muhammad is a member of the People's Party of North Carolina who supports NCGP's U.S. Senate candidate Matthew Hoh. And then it said Parker resides in Guilford. So I sent that back with the edit that it should say Muhammad resides in Guilford County, North Carolina, where he is registered.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Aaron.
Yeah. Yikes. It got snatched by the abyss.
Caught him.
Hey, Janet.
Hey,
Hopefully it logged back in.
Yeah.
Scott, are you there to let Aaron back in if he comes back?
This isn't bad. Good old Google Meet isn't that bad, is it? You guys, it's pretty good.
I like Zoom better.
What's the issue?
Aaron got knocked off, and we don't know if he's trying to come back on.
Oh, okay.
So just be on the lookout in case he
Hi,
comes
Scott.
back.
We're just thinking you have the power to let him in.
I do. One of the things that I wanted to cover tonight was the mission statement specifically. So I was hoping we could kind of brainstorm on that together. I don't really have anything written up. And so therefore, I think we can just kind of go around the room and start trying to put something together as a group. And that'll be one of the first things we can do as far as defining ourselves as populist action. North Carolina.
Okay, that was gonna be my question, Scott, because we had that one that I wanted to edit a little bit out. I've said a couple times, but that's the other one. So you want to do another one for the 27 or whatever?
Yeah, pretty much
Oh.
the 501c4. Yeah, we have to basically creating two organizations. So some of this stuff will be duplicated, but of course the pop action is going to be a little bit different animal, and we're just going to have to start, putting some work in here. We've got to really get started on the website and.
Could you just list the things that the populist action can do? That might be a place to start.
I'm sorry, I lost you guys. At what
Okay,
point
yeah,
did you guys lose me?
About
When
2
the
minutes
Abyss-
ago,
I said the Abyss took you.
What was the last thing you heard? I had no idea I was kicked off. What was the last thing you heard?
You were talking about the lawsuit and your name on the lawsuit.
Oh, so it was a while ago.
Yes.
Oh my God. All right. It was probably when I was trying to do the share screen. But long story short, oh man. Long story short, I haven't heard back officially that it's been filed. I think it's required that he needs to hear from every person, every plaintiff before he can do so. And so if he still is waiting to hear back, then it's possible that it hasn't happened yet. But he did say he was trying to do it for today. So
Okay.
that's
I got a quick question. I got a quick question on that topic. And that is, do you think they need any more plaintiffs or not? Because I'm thinking of doing it, but if they don't need any more, I'll pass.
So this might have been something that got cut off. I don't know if I got kicked off or whatever, but basically, no, they don't need any more plaintiffs. Here, I'll read this part again. But they may still need witnesses. So
Okay.
I think the strategy here is that he's trying to just get it filed and get it done as soon as possible, because there's a bit of a time crunch here. They're not looking to get any like monetary damages back. The whole goal here is to get Matthew Ho on the ballot, and so that's the ask that's being built into the lawsuit. What else? And yeah, there was one of the Green Party co-chair who had asked, like, oh, I didn't see this other person. I thought he was going to be a plaintiff. And then the lawyer basically responded, let's use him as a witness. We have enough plaintiffs, and I want to get this filed. So I think there's a bit of a time crunch for that. So yeah, sorry, I apparently got kicked off. I had no idea.
when they talked to me, they wanted to know if I could get to Raleigh, and I explained that it's 130 miles one way, but it's not impossible. Also had to do with how much notice I would need, because it's one thing. It's a lot cheaper to do it by train, but but that requires a little bit of notice. It looks like the Zoom meeting for McCorkle will start. So I will take my leave of you folks for now and check in with that. Good talking to you, and
All right.
I will see you later.
And trains are the best for climate or for pollution.
Yeah, that's all I had. So if you guys have questions or anything, just let me know. I'll obviously try to keep everyone in the loop and what's going on. And the last thing I wanted.
Oh, you
What's
have one thing. While you were gone, we started talking about a mission statement for
Oh, okay.
populist action.
Okay, go. You guys can continue.
And I asked Scott if we could just kind of make a list of the kinds of things that populist action could do.
Gotcha. Okay.
And from that, we can say what our mission statement is.
Okay.
I'm probably going to email people because this is still being recorded. I have something that's a little more discreet that I want to ask about as far as Matt Hose, but I guess I'll have to email it. Okay.
Okay.
You're muted,
Scott.
We can stop the recording and you guys can talk if you want to. I mean, if we're getting close to the end here.
Yeah.
Regarding the mission statement, I guess I'll go ahead and come up with something and then we can tweak it. That sounds like that might be a better way of going for now, unless you guys have some immediate ideas about our statement.
I like
Go around.
Janet.
Like, what do you think? And do a sentence or two and just kind of get an understanding, some kind of an idea of what we think it might be, just so we can think about it in our dreams or something.
Right. Okay, well, let's go ahead and bring this up.
Sorry, Stacy, we were just about to talk at the same time. Sorry, go ahead. Stacy.
Yeah. Right. I was saying that I liked Janet's idea of letting us know what we can do, and then we can brainstorm what we want to do.
If there are limits, there might not be any limit at all.
To support candidates and causes important to NC voters. Isn't it okay? So causes. Isn't this the place where we fight for Medicare for all, for example?
Yeah, I think it can be like an issue-based support vehicle. I think that would fit nicely there. So that's would be causes, right?
Oh, okay. Do you want to list some of the causes? Oh, not,
well,
not in the mission statement. Not in the mission statement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we need to kind of polish this up a little more. I think that right there might be your real basic idea behind it, but I think we need to add more to it, obviously.
Maybe define something about progressive populist. In other words, kind of where our guiding principles are.
Yeah.
So
yeah, again, we didn't agree on the word principles yet. We still have to talk about that too, as far as I know.
Yeah, we were talking about that for the other website, which we were going to do not platform but guiding principles instead. Correct?
Well, we didn't really talk about it yet, did we? A couple people like it, and I made some comments verbally and online, but I don't remember that we all decided it was the best.
No, we just needed something other than platform since we are not, the party does not
I know.
do the platform thing. Okay, well, maybe we need to mull that over a little bit more and
Well, we can use an imperfect statement now and change it, right? This isn't like the final draft,
right.
right? So we
Right.
can use guiding principles and change it when we find something better. How does that sound, Maple?
Are we
Yeah.
still recording? Can we not record anymore?
Yeah, hang on.
Thanks.
All right. We should stop that.